my relatives would be Harold Jackson from Chatham, Ontario. He was one of the first people that developed and designed the CB radio, and a lot of the radio that you hear today was designed by my uncle. Though he had told a man in Chicago about this who put a patent on it first, and that's why the man in Chicago is rich today and my grandfather's not.
But he started a radio station up here.
Yeah, he started CFCO here in Chatham, Ontario, and it still goes on today. It's run basically by white people.
Did he use the radio station to bring together the black community up here?
Oh, of course, of course. That's what it was all about. That's what they used it for. That was their first voice, since there really was no, there was a black newspaper, but that was so long ago that not very many people remember it being here in this city.
I did research here on the houses of Buxton, which I'm currently writing a book on, because these houses are a legacy of folk architecture, which has not been recognized by folk architects or any architects.
Or by white folks.
Or by white folks, right, because architecture is something that they haven't given us credit for as yet. So I'm trying to establish that credit. Buxton. The houses that I did research on.
Are you planning to write a book?
I'm currently writing a book, yes.
Have you got a title for it yet?
It's called The Houses of Buxton, A Legacy of Folk Architecture.
Okay. You have a book here that says, "My name's not George." Hold up the book for a second there. And what is the significance of the title of the book here?
This is the book on the history of Canada's first all-black trade union, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, an international trade union, and the titular head of the organization, A. Philip Randolph, was my mentor, my motivator, and so I wrote this book to tell the story of Canada's first black trade union. And the title comes from the fact that George Pullman, who invented the sleeping car, the first sleeping car, decided to use black men only for his sleeping cars in the United States, because they had just recently been emancipated from physical slavery, and they wouldn't demand too much in the way of salary and wages.
But when we're saying sleeping cars, we're talking about sleeping cars on trains.
On trains, that's right, yes. And so he decided that since black men had just recently been emancipated from physical slavery, he'd use them because they wouldn't demand too much in the wages. And of course, when you black men work for, or black women work for a white man, they took on the master's name. And so when white people got on the trains, they would greet the porter by saying, "And how is George Pullman's boy today?" Never men. And by the time I became a sleeping car porter in 1940, by the way, the first sleeping cars were invented back in around 1880, I would say, 1870. By the time I became a porter in Canada, the white people would get on the train and they wouldn't ask, "How is George Pullman's boy?" They would just say, "Hello, George, how are you?" And my response was like other men, my name's not George. That's the title of the book.
And so, how difficult was it to organize a union in Canada during the 1940s?
It was very difficult. It was very difficult to organize the men. There had been at least two abortive attempts to organize the black porters, and the management got a wind of what was going on, and the men were dismissed summarily without any recourse, lost their jobs because of trying to organize the union. So the third attempt, we called upon A. Philip Randolph, the great civil rights leader of the United States, to come to Canada to help the men because of his experience in organizing the American porters. He helped the men develop strategy and thus successfully organized the Canadian porters into the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters on the railroads of the Canadian Pacific Railway and the Northern Alberta Railroad in Canada.
Okay, thank you.